Hello, everyone. Welcome to Sean's Thoughts with Sean with a W. Thank you for sharing your attention with me today and with this video that I'm currently.
One that remains edged.
I realize I can't listen to myself talk while I talk, so yeah, let me just fix all of that. There we go. So, thank you for joining me and sharing your attention with me. And well, I just actually had a thought. And the thought was from this phrase that I was listening to from of another channel called Mspiracy, and she had said that the phrase I now I'm trying to remember exactly what the words of the phrase was, but it was something along the lines of I disconnect my attention, or anyways, I'll have to write it in the comments now because I can't really think about what it was. But the idea was that she was saying or creating a mantra or a perhaps series of words to disconnect her attention from anything she wasn't aware it was being connected to. And it suddenly got me to think about, what if the thoughts that come into our heads, the negative ones, the ones that we don't prefer, they're of either bad experiences or paranoias, what if those really aren't our energies, meaning they're not our thoughts? That what if they are essentially the parasites that are using those, and they bring up those different memories in order for them to essentially consume that emotion or that lower vibrational frequency? What if it's something very similar to that TV show or that movie called, I think it was Emotions or something, but the little girl who had all these different emotions in her head, and they basically bring up memories to solicit certain memories and such, or certain feelings and whatever, in order to get them to have a reaction. What if it is like that, and that those narcissistic energies or entities that even people like Dr. Joe Dispenza talk about, that those are actually things, and they want a specific frequency or flavor of loosh being our energy, or what we create. And we create a lot of things, like we create gold dust. That's something that I've recently discovered about it, and then that's the terms that I'm being presented with. But the idea that we create creation from ourselves, and if we hadn't been blocked or held back through all this programming that science has kind of already proved has happened, like if we want to stay away from the conspiracy type of events, science showed us that our DNA was manipulated. They've shown that we've had genetic splicing, that the chances of that happening were completely not possible, and that specific slicing creates a lot of limitations within us. And yeah, so I had just this idea of, what if part of healing is essentially letting go of those emotional attachments to those memories? And that's essentially what healing becomes a part of. It becomes part of letting go from the emotional part of that event. And then that's the healing, that's the trauma release. And that when we release those traumas, we essentially eliminate the need to react the way we do emotionally. Therefore, we can no longer be fed on from those lower vibrational energies. And that essentially, that's the part that we can do with ourselves moving forward, is to do that inner healing. Like, the world outside is always going to be the world outside for those who are outside there. But I feel that when we stop giving that emotional state, like that reenactment, they always say that the body, it doesn't know whether or not it's experiencing like that, as far as it is seeing from what it's seeing, and remembering a lot of what we see is us projecting our programming on the world as well. So when we become aware of those energies that are consuming and for the reason why they're consuming, then that allows us also to release a lot of the trauma or the guilt and shame that we've kept on ourselves. Yeah. To be honest, I probably was thinking, when I was thinking about this original idea before, I went on to a whole new train of thought, but I thought I'd stop and share it. I do really feel that we are coming close to major change. Like, I don't know if people know this, but like last year, January 1st came and nothing happened. But then on January 2nd, or sometime after that, after the weekend over, the Prime Minister of Canada gave in their resignation. And, that was a huge change. That was a huge difference. And whether you see that difference as being a good or a bad thing, it was still a considerable change, especially from the chaos that was going on all prior to that. And so, yeah, see, I'm going off on all these different tangents. Actually, off on another tangent, there's a really big reason to exist in a state of love right now. See, because we are going through transitions, and our system, which is our planet, and you can kind of look at it as all the puzzle pieces all put together for our whole entire planet, our system is going through a massive change. And in order for us, definitely whoever's hearing this, even if they only hear my voice, my vibration for a few seconds, whatever, that's good, is that we stabilize this chaotic system ourselves, especially for the areas around us, our field, by being in love, like thinking about love songs, thinking about like positive love things. Even actually, it's not about being positive, I mean like beneficial love things. So not those sappy songs, and definitely not very much of the country music, because a lot of it has that really mopey, sappy, oh, she stepped on my heart type of love. But the love that makes you feel good, or for example, like I said, it's the idea of the benefit of love. Like, I have a story, and that's kind of what led me to this segue, called The Way You Loved Me in Rome. And it talks about the struggles of love, but the lessons that are learnt as a result of it. And in this case, things for that people got altered, changed. They found a new balance or a new them, as opposed to, in the past, where people could keep doing the same things over and over again, expecting different results, insanity. So, yeah, back to what I was saying. So, right now, and especially in these coming few days, to do things that make you elated, that make you just joyful and happy, and a little bit gay, because that's okay too. Being super flamboyant, whether you're a man or a woman, being just overall happy. And that happiness and that loving state, that's a really high frequency. I foresee a land, or a time, time of no time, but whatever. I see a time where people are going to be happy all the time. A lot of time, but anyways, because we'll make the world the way we want when we remove those so-called parasites and things that consume our attention. Because remember, as I've always said, our attention is our energy, and where we direct our attention, we are simply sending our energy there, and we are, in a sense, not in a sense, in reality, creating that space where we're sending our attention. So even those thoughts we have in our head about what someone did to us, those, if we haven't healed them, trigger an emotional response. And, an easy way to figure out, well, does this thing, like, have I resolved this thing within me internally, is to have those thoughts. And if those thoughts there and they're causing emotions, well, that's a kind of clear indicator that there's still some sort of tether. And then you can resolve that, like look into resolving that. As I said, TFT, if you get an actual feeling somewhere in your body when you're having that emotional state, sometimes that helps you figure out which algorithm to use in order to tap that out. And there's a possibility of just, using and distorting the meridians of the body in order to rid yourself of that emotion. And then the next time that entity comes up and it wants to, trigger you, kind of like what you saw in Monsters Incorporated. They, in this case, for little kid, in the cartoon, they're coming into the kid's room and then triggering fear. But then they actually would do this at, like, just like I said, like that movie with all those little emotions in the person's head, trigger us into doing. So and then feeling that way and then collecting their bounty or their pay or whatever they're consuming. And so when we disconnect from that, next time they press that button, nothing happens. And then we keep going through the process of ridding ourselves of all those other traumas that we have. And then they're sitting there pressing that button over and over again, and they can't get any response. And that's an experience that I had. And I started seeing all of these different purposeful triggers that they were triggering me, or something in my world was trying to elicit a fear or an angry response. For whatever reason they were doing that, whether it was to consume my energy or to manipulate my response. But the more that we essentially take that time and make that aha moment, and that recognizing that is what's happening, the more often that we do it, then the quicker we get at doing it. And then it almost gets, as I've mentioned before, an instantaneous, hey, wait a minute, I didn't want to say that. And then turn to say, I'm sorry, turn to make up for whatever it is, or, to go give that person the thing back, or whatever it is. And the more that we move in that direction, then I think the easier the ripple is going to be in order to get more people in that state of love. So I know I segued a little bit off, but I reflect back on love, like not the sexual love, just the love for everyone around you, for animals, hug a tree, walk on the ground with bare feet, whatever it is, feed the birds. Especially if, it's so funny. In my city, they have a sign that says, if you feed the birds, there's up to a $10,000 something or other. And it's so funny, up to 10,000. It's like, do I have to throw 10,000 seeds on the ground in order to get the $10,000 fine? Like, how do we do it? But it's always so funny how on the signs, and another segue, that they use scare tactics even on the way they write signs. At least they do in my city with the tickets. Up to. Like, there's always up to, and then it's like the worst case scenario, and that's they're putting, and that's supposed to discourage people. Well, in actuality, we should really just all drive more unified. And if that happened, then there perhaps wouldn't need to be as many limitations on us if we were all to drive with compassion. Let everyone else go like second first, like kind of idea, like everyone take their turns while they're driving. That would be awesome. I'm not talking about this at the intersections. Roundabouts are a phenomenal way of doing intersections. Phenomenal way. So yeah, let's take all those traffic lights and make every main intersection, make that the roundabout. That would be amazing. So anyways, I'm going really far off the track, but there's also another video called Illuminating Language that has to do with love. So I highly recommend that one. Not necessarily anymore for the imagery. However, overall for all the imagery. I mean, the actual almost meditation for the divine loved one is phenomenal, and I found myself enjoying that recently as well, just listening to the whole thing, because that's the reason why I made the illuminating languages videos, is because we have words that we say on a regular basis that really don't mean what we think they say. And I've spoken about it before, but our words actually matter. And when we're using words that don't reflect our intent or what's within us, then that essentially is adding to the problem. And while we have so many different issues that we're overcoming, and we're going to have that opportunity for mass healing and forgiveness and all the other lovely stuff, yeah, see there, I'm going to segueing again. But it will be a great opportunity. Yeah, my dog's sitting out here looking, staring up at me, or not really up at me, but yeah, I got distracted. I apologize. So I'm going to leave it with that, and take definite time to heal, to do what you feel is good for your healing. I just actually segue into another last topic before I go. I did just create a course on forgiveness, and it's not your traditional course, meaning there's no homework and no one's going to mark you or anything like that. It's not about learning. It's just about creating a different structure of a playlist for a specific topic. And this topic, as I said, is forgiveness. It's the healing of forgiveness. It's essentially the idea that through healing, we forgive. When we let go of those traumas, we forgive. That's why if we do the TFT and it goes away, then we on our side have forgiven, and therefore we don't need any more connection between the person who caused it. And that's kind of how that works. And so this course is just different videos and a meditation on forgiveness, and that I thought was really cool. I made it with the idea of unified races, including the blue and the green. And yeah, so this whole idea is of forgiveness, and with that forgiveness is healing. And so there's a whole bunch of different videos in there, and definitely I'd love if you check that out and kind of give me your comments, and so perhaps I can recreate it and evolve it into something that could possibly help a lot of people, because a lot of people have their old stories to tell, and they've got many of them. Many. We all, I had many as well, so I know. And my own journey allowed me to release a lot of that, so that a lot of things that once really bothered me, I get an so, just like Ram Dass said. So. Getting to life as being that middle road. Yeah. Anyways, have a wonderful night and day or morning or whenever it is you're watching this, and I look forward to... Oh, oops, I forgot to turn on something else, so you've been just looking at a black screen. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful night.